Hey everyone, welcome to the live stream, and today we are going to be building a menu button using just HTML and Tailwind CSS. So menu button is basically so if you basically it's a button that if you hover over it or if you click it, it opens up a drop down containing multiple options. So you have most likely seen it on this on top right. You usually have this profile icon of the user that's currently logged in. So and if you hover over it or if you click it, it opens up a menu containing multiple options that the user can take. Right. So we are going to be building that using HTML and Tailwind CSS. So I have the project set up here, all with Tailwind and everything. And we are just going to do it in basic HTML. So before we start, let's create our markup that we want for a button. So obviously I'm going to call it a button, but before I do that, let's wrap it within a tag. So we'll have a button that let's call it option. Let's name it options. Then we'll have another section inside here that'll contain the drop down with the more options. So I'm just going to use UL. We'll use UI. Just say li. Sorry, option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4, like this. Let's wait for it to, yeah, right. So by default, Tailwind has Tailwind basically strips out all the default CSS that's applied by the web browser. So if you'll see that this is still a button, but it stripped it out of all the like background color and a border color and everything. And also the LIs, list items, don't have the bullet anymore. So they have basically reset the CSS, default CSS, or normalized the CSS, default CSS. So we are going to first style our option. So we can call class, and then so Tailwind is a CSS utility based framework. So it provides you various classes that you can use to apply CSS to your or style your UI. So I'm going to start with, but first let's give it a background color. I'm just going to call it teal 700. So yeah, we have 700. Let's give it a color of text color of white so we can see it better. Right, we'll give some padding on the, so px is for horizontal padding. I'm going to give it px2, maybe 3, and for the vertical padding, I'm going to give it a py1, right? And let's give it a bit of border radius, yeah, and that's fine. I'm also going to make it uppercase, and let's give it a medium font weight, and let's give it a letter spacing, which is called tracking in Tailwind. I'm going to give it a tracking of wider. Let's try font, bold maybe. Now, before we continue, let's just quickly add a font from Google Fonts. I'm going to be choosing Enter as my font of choice here. I will need this, maybe a medium, and we can directly put the whole thing in the head of our HTML, and let's create this so we can add a font like this to everything. So asterisk is for apply to all the elements. Right now we have a font set up. Let's maybe revert it back to medium. So I'm also going to give it a little bit less of a font size. So that would be with text, SM. I guess SM is I guess 14 pixels. Let's just make everything centered. Screen flex. So at screen is for viewable height. That would be 100 VH. I'm going to declare the body as a flex item, flex container, and then I'm going to set everything centered. So item align item center, justify content center. Let's maybe not do this and just give it a top padding of 24 space. Yeah, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so our button is ready. Would want to make it bit UI2. Yeah, let's also look for an icon since it would look much better if there's an icon assigned to it. That way we can know that way we can give a visual clue to our user that if you click on it, there would be something that opens up, usually using a caret. So I'm just going to straight up copy this and paste it here. And I'm going to wrap it within this name within span. Now we do that, it's going to by default like go wrap over to next line. So I'm just going to use flex and then use items center to bring it back on the same line like this. Now would we want be, let's also wrap this within a span and give it a color of white. Let's also style this span to have a height of, why don't we just, instead of giving a padding for a height, I'm just going to straight up assign a height like h10 maybe. Yeah, h10, then I can come here and say I want this spans or this particular button's height to be h10 as well, or we can just do, I guess, inherit. That should also work. Right, and we would want the width to be W10. Right, like this, and flex, same thing, center everything, justify center. Now on the, so now that we have done this, so you'll see this unnecessary padding that is coming on the right side. So I'm just going to revert this, change this to PL3. So add the padding of 3 of only from the left side. So now we have this button aligned to the right side like this with no padding. Right, now our button is basically styled. Let's also add a hover effect on it. So on hover, I want the background to turn to 800 to give a visual clue to the user that yes, you can hover it. We are also already doing the pointer, so to point that it's clickable, right? Like that. Now we are going to do here is move. Now let's style this. So we would want this to uh, let's start like this. Class, I'm going to make it absolute because it's going to open, so it doesn't take up space or shift the element around the button when it shows up, right? So I gave it an absolute. Let's do right 0 maybe. Okay, so we need to make this position relative, right? Like that. Let's add some border or box shadow. Let's do shadow SM. Like that. Shadow MD, give it a padding of px of 3, I guess. 3 would be fine. Height would be auto. Each ally should have a height of 10 maybe, h 10, like this, and then we do flex. And since I want the items, the text inside the allies to be vertically centered, so let's do items center, like that. We probably want the width to be something more than just that. Let's try W64. Yeah, too much. 48. Yeah, we can do that. So I'm also going to do a margin top of 3. That would be 12 pixel, right? And shadow LG, shadow ND. Let's add a subtle background color of gray, 200 maybe. And that makes this should be then white. Yeah, this looks better. Let's also do rounded, so it's sharing the same roundness as the button itself, right? We also want all the allies to have a cursor of pointers to again show that this is a clickable element. We'd also want some, let's set some text, gray 700. And when you, let's also do when you hover over it, but it should be, so let's say you hover over it, its background should turn to something like, we can probably do teal, but let's do teal. Yeah, so, oh, okay, so now that we have done, let's text white. This means, so instead of doing px3, let's do px2, and on, let's here do rounded. Like that. Now we need some padding from the top as well. So let's do PT2 also, maybe. Yeah, with this, I think we also need to give some padding over here. So Px of 2. Yeah, the list looks fine now. Wait, this should be Py. So it's from both the directions like this. So now we have our, so we have pretty much styled our the UI for our drop down button and all, right? And now we have that. How about we do one? I mean, so we can just do P1, so it will apply it to all the side. I think this looks much better than the previous one. Okay, so this is fine. So now that we have that, let's try. Let's make it. I'm going to see if there is this utility called group hover. So what we would basically want is like to this to be initially be hidden like this, right? But when we hover over it, over this, then it should be visible, um, right? Group hover. So to use it, we need to declare a group. That is, that would be our section, and when it's hovered, we should change the. So I guess this should work. So if it's group hovered, then display what's the opposite of none? No, not none. Sorry. Let's see what's the opposite of. Looking for display. Yeah, here it is. So we have block. We can call it block. Just let's see if that works. So yeah, doesn't work. Oh, we need to do this, I guess. Maybe we'll walk after that. It doesn't look like it does. So if this doesn't work, what we can ultimately do is let's put this hidden here, but let's assign a custom. So we have a section, right? What we can do is basically, let's not do it from Tailwind itself. Let's just do this. So when you hover over the section, what we want is the UL to be display uh, block. Let's try this. Yeah. So yeah, so basically, you'll notice that if I'm hovering in between the button and the drop down menu option, it's still showing. That is because I set the hover on section. So the UL is still within the section. That's why I'm able to hover over it without it closing, right? So basically, we had to just do this. So let's say you hover over this, and then you see a bunch of options assigned option under this menu button, right? Let's smaller that gap. Let's make it empty too. Empty one. Yeah, too close. Empty two. Yeah, this looks fine. right? So we can, okay, yeah, this is not something we want. Let's see how much area it covers. Okay, so it's covering pretty much. That's why. Okay, okay. Hmm. Yeah, we don't want that part. So I'll just see if this works. Um, maybe doing flex start. No, item start. Or maybe self start. No, 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 not in this. Sorry. It should be on section, I guess. Yeah, okay, now we are here. Okay, okay, so that was because of that. So since the section was like section height, section's height basically was because it took the whole height because it was under a flex container. Now that we have done it, make it self start, so it's only around this button. Now we have this gap, so now we cannot touch it. So you'll see it'll drop out. Right, so we can just drop this, right? Or we can, I guess we can also do like, maybe try if it works. Margin button, then let's bring it back. Right, so that means we'll have the space. If you'll see the border here, let me just, where is that? Border, gray 900 to see it better. So if you'll see, I'm also taking this portion. So if I travel between the button, it's going to show up. But now we'll have this. So even if you have not hovered over button, it'll still open up. So we'll just have to do away with close the gap. Yeah. Either we can just close the gap, right? So we can go over it, right? Either we can do this or we can also do, so there are another way. So you can, what you can do is basically create a after, a pseudo element called after or before. You can choose that and just like put it here, like position it under the button. Then you can still hover over it without this drop down closing up, right? And then you'll be able to do that. Right, but this is still good enough. We can still select all those, um, uh, go over the options without it closing on us, right? So let's work more on this. Let's style it a bit more. So let's give it some more options. I'm going to just pick random options from here. So it has my profile dashboard. Okay, so this is a live example of it. So you have a ellipsis menu basically. So this is called an ellipsis menu, and if you on click, so it's on click, it shows you all these options that you have under the menu. So they have segregated if you'll see this, they have sectioned. So my profile is here. Then you have a section that includes dashboard documentation and everything. And then you have a section that's just basically called sign out. Right. So what we are going to do is let's just copy that. I'm just going to say profile. Let's call that profile. I'm going to just for a moment just do this so we can always see it. There was a profile, there was a dashboard, then there was a documentation, right? And let's also do logout, right? Now so these two go together, so we can do basically put a separator here using HR, that is horizontal rule, like this, right? And it'll still be fine. Or one more thing else we can do is put a margin above and below it, like my1 4 pixels basically. Okay, we'd have to make it a block element, right? So like this, we can put some space over it, right? Now another thing we could do is, since the logout is a negative action, negative as in it's something that you may not want to click, so we have to make the user aware that this is a negative action. So to do that, what we can basically do is make it red, the background red on hover. Do they not have red? That's weird. Do they have? So we have red? I don't think. Okay, yeah. Oh yeah, there is a red. Oh, it's wait. Why is that not working? White is fine. Background color BG red 700. That's what I did here. Let's maybe refresh. Oh yeah, now we're getting the red. So let's make lighten it a bit. It's too aggressive. Oh, too lightened. And this looks fine. Let's try 600. Yeah, this one's better. Let's do that. Now we have added some sectioning to our drop-down menu like this, right? So another thing we could do now is let's make the instead of teal, let's make it blue, a bit lighter of blue. Yeah. Oh no, we should probably just do teal. There's a recurring theme, so our buttons are also accent, basically accent, as we are choosing teal. So we should just probably choose teal for this, but this is a negative action, so it gets a color of its own. Right, let's also add some icons to make it pop a little bit. So I'm going to choose, for profile, we can pick, okay, yeah, we should probably say user. Let's pick this one. Okay, so make a span like this, right? That would be profile. We need a one for dashboard. Do we have one for dashboard? I don't think so. Let's find some. Um, does it look like it has? We can probably use this, but it's more like a tab drawer. Hmm. Let's just use this one. What are they using? Are they using the same thing with just a bit different? There is more appropriate though. Uh, so we want a span like this, right? Then we have a, oh wait, I put it on profile. It should be on dashboard. Then we have a documentation, something that represents an article, a document of any sort. You can probably, yeah, this is save. No. Oh yeah, here it is. Let's pick this one. Okay, now for the logout. Do they have a logout? Yeah, they do. Let's pick this one, span logout. Right, let's style them now. I'm doing alt click to select multiple and select in multiple places. So I can do this at once. So I'm going to do the same thing that we did with this button. So W10, height and edit, flex, item center, justify center to center everything, center the icon basically, like this. Now we have to remove this. Same way we removed it from that one. So instead of doing it on both sides, I'll just do it on right side maybe. We don't actually need it on the right side either, but yeah. Okay. So we need a color for this. I can do it. We can remove that. Class, we can say stroke current. This is our Tailwind class again. And then we can say text gray 700 to give it this lighter look. 7, maybe 6. Yeah. We would also, yeah, this is fine. Now we want them to be turned to white. Okay, again, we need the group hover. So maybe we can do this again. Let's try group hover if it works. So all of the LI should have a group, then all the, no, not this should have a group. However, text white. Okay, yeah, so that, oh, it works now then. No, cool. Yeah, so when we, so before hovering over, we are giving them a lighter gray, a 600. And when we hover over, we just turning them white, turning them to white. So we can see better after on the hover save. Right, so our menu is basically looking pretty good. Our menu button is looking pretty good. We have styled both the button and the menu as well. We did some iconography here, and then we also did some sectioning. We gave some of the options, some different levels of priority, or their states, or different states we took care of. All right, I guess we are about done with this menu button. Let's put hidden back on. Right. I forgot to name it menu button, HTML, and TailwindCSS. Right. So you hover over it. It shows you shows you some menu options in a drop down like this. So this is basically what we wanted to create in today's live stream. A menu button that which upon hover shows a menu of options or a drop down of options, somewhat similar to like this, a real world example. Right. So I guess basically we're done with it. So to summarize it all, we basically created a section, a wrapper that will wrap both of our button and our menu options. I used a button to trigger or on hover of which the menu options show up. I use I used a SVG for our carrot icon to show that if you hover over it, there is something under it. If you take action on this button, right? Then we basically use UL and LI for our menu. So if you'll see here, I've been using like appropriate tags that fits the situation, fits our use case here. We need a list of menu, so I used a UL, an order list, and a list item, basically, right? And then we did the same thing with the icon positioning that we did on the button. this and we just put the menu option name here. So in a real world scenario, you could probably make this a anchor tag to take you to a different page, or assign a on click event listener on this to basically do a logout and sort of that. So you can do all of those functionality in this. So this kind of menu option button is practically used in cases when you want to when you have a multiple options, but they don't really need to be out in the open. So you group them under a hidden menu, basically. Right, so this is it for this live stream. Thank you for joining us, and I'll see you guys in the next one.